All right. So, again, my name is Tanuja Goulet, and I'm a resident practitioner at Oregon College of Oriental Medicine. So I have a residency position in the school clinic, and so you can find me there for my practice. And I'd like to hand out my card. You can take one and pass it on. While you're passing that around, I would like to do a group exercise. I'd like you to turn to somebody near you, one other person, and just share what brought you here today to this talk. What was interesting about the topic of Chinese herb for women's health? Yeah, definitely find someone. We're going to do a couple different things where you talk to different people.
I'm here because I didn't want to do this Monday, but
What brought you here today? Okay. Everybody ready? Would you like to share anybody about what brought you here? Just briefly? Okay. Anything? Okay. We have another one. What is an herb? We're going to talk about herb for women's health. So what is an herb? And a plant? Yeah. I get a bonus. What else? It's a plant.
That has beneficial, hopefully beneficial effects. Hopefully.
It's a beneficial plant. We hope it's beneficial. So some plants aren't beneficial. What else do you think of? Like, herbs are green, or are they pink?
can do both, can't they?
They're flowers. They're flowers. They're also roots. Sometimes you use the roots.
How about stems? Are there herbs that aren't plants? Do they have to be a plant?
What's ginger? Is that not, is that an herb, or is that a,
It's a root, yes, and it's an herb,
okay.
yes.
I don't know the name in English, but isn't there an herb that in the wintertime it turns into a warm and in the summertime it turns into kind of like a root or stem?
The cordyceps, yes. It's
So what would you categorize that?
that's an herb too.
That is an herb.
Yes, and it definitely, like, in terms of phylogeny, like, it's in the fungal kingdom, not an animal, but it's grew off an animal. And then a lot of herbs tend to be in the plant kingdom. But, yes, sometimes fungus can be an herb. But could it be a beneficial fungus?
Yeah.
Great. So these are great. Herbs are any natural substance used for medicine. So we have quite a big variety. Most of them are plants in Chinese medicine. And there's some in the garden, even out here in this garden. This is, does anyone recognize this one? It's the peony.
Oh, it's a peony.
Oh, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't recognize from
And this is one that you'll see flowering right about now, maybe for a little while, that is in people's gardens around Portland. And its root is also used in Chinese medicine. And we don't use the flowers in Chinese medicine of these plants. Sometimes Chinese herbs are shells or deer antler. And they're chosen based on their properties. I'll talk about that a little bit. In this jar, this is an herb, and I just wanted to, I'll have you check it out later. I wanted to show you how it's very hard and it's very, very dry root. You can hear how loud it is clacking in the jar. And they're also, herbs are used to make Chinese medicine formulas. Like, they're put together in a specific way for a specific effect, and they may be put together to make physically something that's like a powder or into a soup, like it's cooked in a big pot and you would drink it. Or the powder may be used dry somewhere on the skin, or it may be put in water and drank. And herbs also have for a long time been used over a long process made into pills. So there's quite a variety of ways that you can look at herbs on a shelf and find out they're actually like herbal components or herbal formula completely. So here's some of 2 different kinds of pills. And then this is a tincture that herbs are made into. So it's an alcohol, the herbs are ground up into a powder and then they're put in alcohol. And then the active ingredients are absorbed extracted into the alcohol. And you would filter and then take the alcohol as your herbal medicine. And then sometimes herbs are made, these are all factory made, manufactured from the plant, but this one is made into a pill, and this one is made into a powder. The herbs are extracted by a big steam process, and then the liquid you get from that is dried up and made into a powder, and put in packets or bottles and combined in special ways. And then when you have this kind of thing, you can drink it as tea in a teacup.
When you have all these different ways of making the herb,
Yes.
so when you boil it into powder or a pill or the alcohol, are they all the same effect on the body? Are they the same potency?
They can really vary. Because with the alcohol, you're able to extract maybe slightly different things from it than cooking it and steaming it. But you can also vary how much you take. You can take a little bit, a lot. These come in drops. You can take a dropper's roll. And this, you can also choose to take a couple pills, or 10 to 12 pills can be a typical dose of these. They're very tiny little pills. So, but pills are generally thought to be less strong of an effect than taking these powdered formulas. And then when you cook the herbs yourself, this is the bulk herbs, the herbs that you get raw, and they're combined specially for you by what your licensed acupuncturist would like to combine together in a formula for you, and then you can cook them in a big pot. And those are considered the strongest. Those are considered the most potent herbs you can take, and they can really get a good effect. But you can also take certain of these herbs, a few berries out of this, you could buy at the store and just drink those as a tea, and it wouldn't have the same potent effect as this medicinal combination here.
So the fast is still the ancient way.
I'm sorry?
The fast is still the ancient way. Boil it
Yes.
down to-
Yes, although I would like to point out that this is one of the ancient ways of also taking herbs, and this is too, because there's certain formulas that were made in an ancient way to promote something like longevity or feeling healthier as you get older, and so they would consider that, taking a long time for you to get older, and you want to promote long life, and so the pills actually go through a long making process of grinding up the herbs, and it takes a long time to grind them by hand and roll up pills. But yeah, if you cook them, cook them in a big pot. That is the most typical ancient way. I think that I mentioned a little bit, herbs can be taken as a drink, but they can also be put on the skin. They can be put on the skin for different reasons, like to stop itching or to promote an internal effect as if you were drinking it, but through your skin. And this is another picture of what the powdered herbs look like. And this is how a formula would look if somebody prescribed you a custom formula. So a licensed acupuncturist decides they want to give you something that they make specially that they couldn't get in one pill, or they maybe couldn't even combine 2 different pills and tell you to take 2 different pills. And then they will make you custom formula, and then you would have all these separate herbs measured out for you and weighed out gram by gram and put into a powder bag for you, or into these containers where you would get a little packet of each container, of each one. So this would be wrapped up in a separate packet than this one, and then when you go to cook it, you would unwrap one packet and cook that, and then drink what you cooked. The other nice thing about these two, the powder and the cooking yourself, is that you can smell a lot of the herbs and really get acquainted with the flavors of them. So here's another group exercise. I just talked for a while. So what does an herb do? We mentioned earlier it has beneficial effect.
It makes you feel good in a natural way. Generally, it doesn't have, if any, side effects.
Stimulate your immune system.
Stimulate your immune system.
Serves as a medicinal purpose.
Can align you with the seasons. What else can herbs do?
They can provide nourishment, like food.
Provide nourishment, yes. These are also beneficial. Any other benefits of herbs? What about you? Anything that you noticed really left out, or you would like to put up on something like this?
Can a lot of them be grown in, our own vegetable gardens, or they imported, or how do you know what kind of quality you're getting?
Yeah, what can herbs do? Can they grow here? Can they be grown? That's definitely a hot topic. You know, the ones that I just showed in the picture of the 2 growing ones, I took pictures personally myself here in Portland. And then in this garden, there's several Chinese herbs. But there's some herbs that, you know, people in this field are trying to figure out how well they can grow in North America, and do they have potency? Can it look pretty, or can it provide the medicinal needs? Definitely. That's a good question. One of the things that I like that herbs do is they can help you sleep. They really can help you with insomnia.
Aren't there some that,
When you see, I'm sorry?
aren't there some herbs that can, generate, birth?
They can help promote labor.
Yeah, promote labor. Sounds better.
Yes, yes. There are herbs that, for example, this one, ginger, that you can take during pregnancy, and there are herbs that you should not take during pregnancy because they would terminate the pregnancy. But at the end of pregnancy, you might want them to promote labor. Although that's definitely, you know, a difficult one in this country because it brings up the issue of liability of the practitioner. If anything goes wrong in labor, it can be a really, really big deal in this country, and people can get really, you know, they can start thinking that something they're not so sure about, because Chinese medicine is a pretty new profession in the United States. They think maybe that could cause the problem. So, well, one thing that people do often use in labor is acupuncture, because it doesn't have that same pharmaceutical herb effect that people feel a lot more comfortable with acupuncture for labor. It can really help them with the pain and help promote different stages of labor. So when you think of ginger, what do you think about what ginger does for you? Both of you? 3 people were talking, yes.
It helps your digestive system.
Yes, it helps the digestive system. And what about it?
Helps warm you up on a cold day.
Helps warm you up, yes.
Well, those are the 2 I was going to say. I'm sure you know.
Is it like anti-nausea?
Yes, anti-nausea, yes.
I was given a ginseng root a long time ago by a Korean gentleman, and he told me that I should cook it with ginger root, and I don't remember why.
Yes, that's excellent. That's an example of how ginger can help moderate other herbs. Sometimes herbs have a potential part of their effect is that they're very strong, and they can be maybe too strong for the person, and so ginger can help soften that.
Also, that's a nice flavor.
Yeah, and add a good flavor to it. Yes. That's great. Those are so many functions of ginger. And so often you would not take ginger alone in Chinese medicine. Usually, as you just pointed out, you take it with ginseng. Or you take it, often it's in many formulas. Because it has a good flavor and it's warming, and sometimes it's even used in a formula to help get rid of nausea. And so herbs are almost always used, as I showed in the pictures before, as a multiple herbs together. Usually, you know, 6 to 15 herbs is pretty average for all the formulas. And there's a specific reason why every single herb is in a formula for their own effects and for their effect in combination. So it's a pretty evolved system of Chinese herbs. There's so many ways that you can take the different faces of the herb, the different facets of them, and promote one or the other in different formulas. And then there's our beginning herb textbook is just thick because there's so many texts and different writings on Chinese herbs in Chinese that the person who compiles this book in English will have all these excerpts from the textbook telling you all about these different opinions and comments on the herbs throughout history. So definitely there's even debated reasons why different herbs are in different formulas. And they're called formulas. I mean, we combine multiple herbs together. And here's just superimposed with each other. One of the bottles I showed you before with its ingredients spread out in the bulk form. And here's something that you might recognize. Ginger. Cut in slices. And the color is not really great here, but this is mint. And this is gardenia seeds. And I like this formula to show you in the talk because this is a typical formula used for women's health. It's called the Free and Easy Wonder. And it's very, I'll tell you some more about it. It's a very common formula and very useful formula. Here's one of its main uses. It can really help you go from being grouchy to being not grouchy. And this is even a travel photo of somebody being a free and easy wanderer. Here's the reasons why you might consider taking this formula.
Lots of them, like you could fit in any, everybody could fit in at least one of those.
Yes. That's right. And if you had, the nice thing about Chinese herbs is that if you had one of these to a big extent and you didn't have the others, then a different formula might fit for you. Or a custom formula might fit with part of this formula and a big part of another formula. Yes.
So would you be saying that, like, for this tea, that you would probably want to have several of these and not just one?
Perhaps. And for this tea, there's other things I didn't write on here that aren't as specific to women. So there's certain other signs that would make somebody say, a man should take this. Or if somebody had, somebody in menopause might not have some of these things, but they might still have the formula be really useful. So it's part of why we spend so much time going through a 4-year degree to learn this medicine. So we can learn, how to really pick out and choose and identify. We call it pattern differentiation. So somebody might feel irritable, but then their pattern differentiation is one that would fit for this formula, or their pattern differentiation is one that would fit for a different formula.
When you're learning the Chinese medicine, since many of the herbs are in Chinese characters,
That's right.
how do you learn without knowing Chinese?
We learned pinyin. So I found this picture, but actually we have the option to add these to what we learned, but we don't get tested on Chinese word. We use pinyin and Latin names, both. And so our tests in the board exams have pinyin and Latin.
So there are names for these herbs in
Yes.
Latin,
Yes.
but there are no English names for these herbs.
There are some. Sometimes the Latin name actually uses a component of the English name, and then sometimes there is an English name. And then we might know that all, totally, that it's a common English name. For example, mint or ginger, they just have very different English names, but then they have a ginger component to their name. Well, for that one. Or this one, I don't think we have in English, it's just called Poria. And even when you're looking at the Latin name of it, it still has Poria in it. But then this is gardenia, and I don't remember the Latin name of it. But that is definitely a common one that you would find in English names. This one is a mint because they're common garden herbs. And by the way, this over here is the peony root.
also from a flower. I don't
Yes.
know what's the English name for that flower, but it's some kind of a flower skin.
Yes, I don't know that one either. And that's what some of the herbs I'm able to know, and some of them I don't know. I've never seen them before in real life. Like this one is an herb that one of them is like the main herb to make you not cranky. It's great. And it's called chive, and it's also called bupleurum in English. And if you meet a naturopath, they might know it as just bupleurum. And they might have different uses for it too in Western herbalism. But it's not a common garden herb like some of the other ones. Other questions? So this formula, this is just a picture to illustrate how this formula, the Xiaoyuan, can bring you back from from feeling like there's just a great abyss out there and you don't know if you can come back. So, group exercises. How does an herb work? It does so many of these things. How do you think it might do them?
Stimulates.
Stimulates. Stimulates. What are you thinking of when you say stimulates?
Maybe everything going faster, stimulating action, or stimulating what?
Stimulating activity.
Activity in your system. I mean, some people have a real sluggish system,
Mhm.
and I know
Stimulates activity in your system. Yes.
balances your system.
Balances your system. Yes.
Maybe improve circulation. or
Improve
helps you
circulation.
Get rid of toxins easier.
Yes. Improve circulation and detoxify.
When you talk about balance, isn't it that they talk a lot about in Chinese medicine yin and yang?
Yes.
So the balance is basically when a person is irritable, they have too much yang, which I don't know what it is in English, but I always say heat.
Mm-hmm.
I think you always have too much heat.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have too much heat, you need to balance it with more yin, which cools your body internally, not temperature-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the herb does. It balances you into this medium where you don't have too much yin or too much yang. So that's when you formulate these different herbs so that it fits
Yes.
your body.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So what is the correct term for too much heat and too much cool?
That's actually correct.
That is
Yes.
correct. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
See?
And it can be too much yang, too much yin, or it can be too much heat, too much cool.
Because the list that you had, oftentimes, except for the irritable part, he doesn't get mad too much, but the bitterness in the tongue and, or sometimes you'll have breakouts,
Mhm.
then, I asked my dad, and he said, okay, have a list of these things. But it does seem that in today's world, that we all seem to have too much heat and not too much coolness.
That's a good point. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, I'm sure many people that you diagnose your patients, very seldomly you find a person who says that I think that I have too much cool. Most people have too much heat. I'm sure it's due to the environment and our diet and everything.
Yes. Our environment, our diet, our culture values doing things fast doing things quickly, drinking coffee, which heats you up, getting into that state of being ready to do things all the time, driving as fast as you can, doing 20 things a day, and those all are things that are very much, you need a lot of yang energy for, and you create a lot of heat when you're doing them, and you don't balance them. Good point of bringing up balance. You don't balance them with some things that promote the yin part, the cool, the resting, the getting a good night's sleep, spending time noticing your breathing, all of those, and having days where you don't have to do anything. We think you have to do something every day. So an herb can definitely work by letting you get to a more rested place. If you're too young and you have to do a lot and you can't sleep, for example, then the herb will balance you and help you be able to rest. I see some people taking notes. Anyone else like to comment? So as we saw with ginger a few minutes ago, Chinese herbs work in many different ways. They can help do so many different things. And that's partly the function of the fact that they have different natures and flavors. So ginger has a certain smell and a certain color and a certain way that it acts inside your body. And those all contribute to its function. And then when you mix ginger with other herbs, then you get some new functions that are combined functions. And it's kind of like this picture of a labyrinth, because first you're on the outside and you're looking at it. And you want to know what the herb does, and you want to experience the herb, but first you're just there looking at it. And you see these outer layers that you might go through to get to the center. We haven't gotten there yet. And so, for example, these two, this is the root I showed you earlier, and it's part of the formula Xiaoyuan. And here is the formula in a powder form. And so this is inside this. And you can smell each of them. And so I'm going to pass it around so you can smell them.
Can you say they're the same?
The one in the glass jar is inside the powder in the canister. But the powder in the canister is that whole entire formula Xiaoyuan. So it contains multiple herbs all together. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So, when you smell the one in the canister, any comments on how it smells different than the herb itself, the one herb?
Quite different.
Quite different. What did you notice?
I couldn't detect the one that the herb we passed by itself. I couldn't detect that in the powder.
Yes. What could you smell in the powder?
Mint.
Mint, yes, definitely. You definitely smell mint in that formula. Part of the reason why the formula helps you feel like free and easy and not so irritable is because partly mint is so light and helps you let things out and not have to be so heavy. And the herb in the glass jar is actually a pretty heavy herb. I don't know if you can feel it. It's very nicolavonoids in the jar, and it's very dense and heavy. And so it helps, even the two that you have there, mint and the one in the jar, the dongwei, they balance each other. and they help create a balance in the formula.
One grounds you and then one's like light.
Yes. And so it's kind of like this picture here with a center that also is present, and then the exterior aspect, and you have them all present. And going through this, you will walk through outer levels and inner, and sometimes when you're walking through a labyrinth, you go back out to the edge, right? And then back more closer to the middle. And then when you get to the center, what do you have to do? You go back out again. So it's kind of a balancing act to make formulas and to find ways to treat the grounding aspect and then the outer aspect. And one more thing about even smelling the herb. When you smell the herb, I know some people smile. Even that mood that you feel smelling the herb is part of the therapy of the herb. So that's why it's so wonderful to drink something in a cup where you can smell it and taste it. I have a little story for myself. Yes?
Oh, what does it mean if you're prescribed a formula that you find to be distasteful?
That tastes really bad. Yes. Sometimes people start to like those after a while and get used to the flavors they weren't used to before. Some people, a lot of the flavors in Chinese medicine we're not used to in the United States. We don't have a lot of bitter, for example. And so people get used to it and say, oh, I start craving that flavor. And it can be really helpful. And bitter is one of those flavors that actually helps balance out heat. Usually it's cool and bitter.
I don't know if it's bad, but I add honey when I
You
don't
add
know
honey?
what to say.
Yeah, and sometimes that helps people, yes. Yeah, sometimes that helps people feel like the formula tastes a little bit more palatable until they get used to it. Sometimes honey is part of the formula, a little bit of sweet. And you can always ask your practitioner if you could put honey in it. So here's the next one. Why would certain herbal formulas be used for women especially?
Probably because of our hormones.
Because of hormones. Because hormones do what?
Well, they can make you crazy, or they can
Hormones.
that's a good.
Yeah.
Because women have to go through menstruation and childbirth and menopause.
A lot of changes.
Yeah.
So changes in hormones and in their body, like in how the hormones affect their body in big physical ways. Other ones? I think you've definitely gotten the essence of it because women have so many different things that happen to them, and herbs can help them go through those processes. I have a slide here of how women go through so many phases even in 1 month. But you can also look at this picture as a lifetime, waxing and waning, and how women and men go through those. But then women have, menstruation and childbirth that follow these cycles as well. Here's some of the big ones. I also added pain in there. I don't know if anyone was thinking about pain when they said because of hormones. And they can definitely help with the period, but what happens when you have a period but you didn't think you were having a period? They can help with that. And they can help you have a period too. And the herb that you were all just smelling in the glass jar itself is called dangwei, which means must return. So it means you must go through your cycle. You must have another cycle. And it's a major herb for women's health. Yes.
I have a question I'm going to ask for a friend that has fibroids. Is
Yes.
Chinese medicine helpful for controlling bleeding related to fibroids, or is that outside of sense?
Yes. Yes. Depending on what your friend wants to do with the fibroids, and it's a good conversation that the woman can have with her Chinese medicine practitioner and also her doctor. And the doctors and Chinese medicine practitioners could also talk or meet communication. So your friend can definitely look into that. And a lot of people use Chinese herbs to help them get pregnant. And when I went to China last year, I was observing in gynecology for a big part of what I observed in over 5 weeks. And a lot of women were there knowing they wanted to regulate their period so that they could get pregnant. And it's sort of a very, very popular part of the hospital. They have nighttime clinics even, where some other departments would be open in the evening. And imagine what it would be like if in this country we thought certain things like infertility and back pain were definite. Think of Chinese medicine as what you need to do for that. So this is just the free and easy wanderer part of this. You would like to let some things out and feel like you could have an improved mood and cycle.
Heat escaping the body.
I'm sorry?
Because the picture looks like heat is escaping.
Yes, that's great. You're right. Yeah, it's even red. Here is the list again for that formula, the Xiaoyawan that you're all smelling in the canister. And after going through those feelings, yes?
I was wondering, for the forms, does that include the oils too?
For the what?
Like the forms, like you have pills and tincture? and-
Yes.
Does that include the oils, like essential oils?
Essential oils, they're not traditional Chinese medicine, but the herbs all contain essential oils, so they are not used as an extract for essential oils, but often an active constituent of an herb may be an essential oil or an oily part of the herb that's staying intact, and when you cook it, different things happen. When you cook it in combination or when you cook it alone, different things happen in that. Or when you put it in alcohol, the oil is more likely to be extracted. So this is just the road and the flow. There's a river under the road, and how women we might want to feel, as opposed to feeling the other symptoms that I listed. And this is a natural setting that I took a picture of in China, and Chinese herbs can help you feel more like you have a natural setting. Often when you go into a natural setting like this, the air is even cooler, so you're reduced heat even. So this is a group exercise where you can talk with somebody kind of near you, and share a couple things that you learned today. And then I'll ask you to share afterward. I'll come over and talk with you.
Well, I'm trying to think. It was interesting to find out that herbs can be made into a formula for specific reasons. Just leaving out one or two items makes a big difference.
Yes. Have you had a custom herbal formula for yourself before?
No, I haven't ever done that. But I think I will. That's That's another thing I learned
Oh, good. Great. Well, I have herbal consultation times at OCOM, so yes, I invite you to come have one with me. Thank you. Some custom formula.
today. Thank you very much.
It's from India. My first name is from India. Yeah. My parents took a trip around the world on their motorcycle, and they found my name in India. Okay, I would like to hear what you all have to say before we close up. What did you learn today?
Oh, I was just saying that one of the things that I learned was that I didn't realize that you always use the herbs in combination with each other. I thought that was an
Yes.
interesting fact.
Yes. Anyone else? I appreciate you note takers. I think you learned some things today. Often people ask where they can buy the herbs when I'm at the end of the talk. So here's kind of the major thing, because I did hear a couple people say that they learned that herbs are made in specific formulas. So often the best place to buy herbs is from a licensed acupuncturist, because they can diagnose you and make you a specific formula for you. Or they can choose specific patent formulas already pre-made for you. And the good place to do that is at the Oregon College of Oriental Medicine Clinic. There are licensed practitioners like myself and some faculty even that work there. And then there are also intern students who are learning and they're supervised by a licensed practitioner also. And there's also a massage clinic in the school, and there's also herbal consultations in the school. And I just have another one on here that Wingming Herb Store sells herbs, and you can go in and look at the herbs and walk down the aisle and smell and touch the different herbs in their bags, of course.
Well, you know, one of the things I think I learned today, or in general about herbs, is it's not a good idea to make up your own prescription. It's very complex.
Yes.
And a lot of information needs to go from the person to the practitioner before the practitioner knows what to
Yes.
prescribe.
Yes, yes. And even as a practitioner myself, I'm hesitant to make my own formulas because I would like somebody else to look at me from outside and be able to put my symptoms together and help me by their expertise. So there's definitely advantages to having somebody make your formula for you. They have experience in knowing the dose and the combinations and diagnosing you. I went through the OCOM clinic, and then if you're curious, you want some more information, you're not quite sure it's right for you, that you'd like to find out, I also have some, in addition to having herbal consultations myself in the clinic, and I do acupuncture in the clinic too, but I have some appointments that are just herbal consultations. I have some free 20-minute initial consultations. So I invite you to come and sign up for one of those with me. I have a clipboard. I'll pass it around. And there's some times on here, but if they're not on there, if there's a time on there that you'd like that's not on there, just let me know. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Many of you have asked questions already. Yes?
You're using packaged formulas or patent?
Packaged.
Yeah,
Patents.
patent or copyrighted formula.
Yes, they're called, I don't know if there's, some of them are proprietary. I guess that's a better word for them. And some of them are made in like a patent way just because they're like, every single formula is the same.
Oh.
There's no variation in dosage, but they're packaged, yeah. And they probably should be called like pre-made pills or something instead of patent. thank you so much for your attention and your time, and your questions were great. Yep. Yeah, those are often, those are usually like big ones or like the farm cars.
I would never know that.
Or, you know, if they were like, you know, if a family had it at home, maybe like so Yeah, did you try it?
Yeah, it is, but yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
It was the guest of his sister, and then we were having this. He was really excited, and then, you know, we had talked for an hour or two at dinner. He brings up this jug to do like a ceremony. They said, you know, they don't
You
usually
can all have
share
a
that.
picture.
And then we